the second movie that I saw this weekend was Clara. Have you ever even heard of that movie?
No, I have not.
Either had I until Friday, and I had seen everything else in the theater, so I'm like, why not? Let's go see this one. It stars Patrick Adams, who you might know from Suits.
Oh, okay. Mike from Suits.
And I'm going to butcher this name, but Troian Bellisario? The guy girl from Pretty Little Liars? Yeah, they're actually
That's
married
his wife
in real life.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
And they play kind of boyfriend and girlfriend in this movie.
Okay. The chemistry better be really good because they're married.
No, their chemistry. I don't actually know what to make of this movie. Watching it, I think it was about an hour and like 40 minutes, and when it was over, I just sat there for a second. I'm like, I don't know what to make of this. It's a sci-fi movie. It's kind of like, if I had to describe it, I would describe. Have you ever seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey?
No, I have not.
Okay, it's Contact, so they're making contact with like an alien life form. Meets some kind of romantic drama like Love Story or Titanic, something like that. It's like this pure love story with having contact with aliens. That's how I would describe this movie.
Okay, interested. Let's
right?
Please. Well, I need to know more about this movie.
Like in just the concept of that would make you like, and you're a sci-fi guy like I am.
Yeah.
So as I love sci-fi. You're a big Star Wars guy. Love Star Trek. Love Star Wars. Pretty much anything sci-fi I'll watch. And even though that's the concept, it just didn't play out in a perfect way that I would have liked. The concept was good, but it needed a lot more. So basically, Patrick Adams plays Dr. Isaac Bruno, and he is one of the smartest, I guess, astrophysicists at an Ontario university. It's a Canadian film.
Oh, okay.
And he is obsessed with finding life on another planet. The movie kind of begins in his classroom where he's sitting in class, like listening to music, and like everyone's waiting for him to start his lecture, and then he finally takes his ear thing off and talks about like, we need to find life on another planet. And at this point, I don't watch previews, so I have no idea what this movie's about. And I think it's a sci-fi movie at this point. I'm just like, oh, it's just crazy scientist. So he goes into this idea of why it's better to be obsessed with finding life on another planet than being in love. And we soon find out that he was married, and that his ex-wife now lost a child right after the child was born, and he's kind of been depressed for the last 2 years. So he's kind of thrown himself deeper into his work than he's ever been before. And again, still really interesting concept, right? Mm-hmm. So he ends up moving a satellite and ends up going on sabbatical. So he's kind of like suspended without pay from the university. And he wants to get, he's putting his full efforts into his new endeavor on finding life on another planet. And this is where the science fiction starts. There's this company that's putting a satellite into space, and they're going to like search the entire galaxy, and it's phase 1 of 2. So the first phase is like pictures of everything. And then after a year of doing this, they're going to send another satellite into space, and the number one candidate of what planet is most likely to have carry life will now be taking the second satellite to take a really good look at that planet. So Isaac Bruno, that's what he wants to do. But there's so much information, he can't do it himself. He needs an intern. But he doesn't have any money. So in meets Clara. And Clara comes in. She's a drifter. So she doesn't carry anything around with her except for 6 rocks at the beginning. And each rock is a kind of metal or kind of birthstone from each of the different continents she's been to. She's got one from Antarctica, Australia, Asia, Africa, Europe, and South America.
Okay, interesting still. I'm interested.
Yes. And so she is now back home in Ontario, in North America, and she's kind of, found this dog and was looking for a place to stay. She's fascinated with that kind of research, life on another planet. Mm-hmm. So she wants an intern, but, Isaac Bruno's like, well, you don't have any background in anything, so I don't know if this is the best fit. But there's no other choices because no one wants a free internship. Every university student wants to be paid. So he reluctantly takes her, and they immediately bond. So the concept is they work together, they find a planet that could potentially work. Turns out someone else beat them to the punch, and one of the reasons we find out that she's home is she's dying of some kind of autoimmune disease. It's very rare. So they eventually gotten together, love story kind of thing, and she dies. Now,
at the end of the movie,
with about 5 to 10 minutes left in the movie.
Okay.
And after she dies, she gives him like one more like little speech, and it's kind of like a spiritual kind of thing, like just like use your like spirit and your brain, don't turn your brain off, and you'll find the planet. And that's what kind of he does. He finds this planet, and it ends up being the planet.
sounds like he used something else to try and find the planet.
No, I'll go into more detail with that when I explain it and in their character. But he finds this planet. He goes to his best friend. It's like, you're taking the lead, kind of showing that he's over this obsession, that he's ready to move on in life. Mm-hmm. So kind of fast forwards another like 2 years, and this planet ended up not being a planet. It was a spaceship that was revolving like a Jupiter-sized planet, and they call back Bruno to because this spaceship has sent them a message, and the message was Isaac Bruno. And this movie ends with him sitting in a room and then playing. They had sent a song, and happened to be the first song that Clara played for him on the record player. And the movie ends. So that's kind of why I'm not going to be as high on this movie as I probably should be, because the concept is really good. It kind of ended there. It needed more. It needed to finish the story. The story, for lack of a better word, lacks the imagination. They had this great love story, but they don't kind of finish it. Was she dead? Was she an alien who kind of just went back to the space station? Like, there's so many elements to this movie that we don't get to. It's a sci-fi movie that gets lost, or the sci-fi gets lost in this love story, and it never kind of comes back to the forefront, except for just to end the movie with that little song. She left with more questions than you are with answers.
Kind of sounds like a Christopher Nolan. He tried to do a Christopher Nolan, kind of ended at the end.
It's got a little Interstellar there, right? Like, with the way it kind of ended. But like, you have these two characters that are so different, and pretty much Clara and Bruno, they're the two main characters of the entire movie. Clara is the artist, Bruno's this astrophysicist. Bruno's pragmatic. Like, Clara's idealistic. Bruno has no faith. Clara has a lot of faith. Bruno's educated. Clara dropped out of high school. So you have these two like polar opposite characters. And one of my favorite lines in the movie is they're walking after like their first breakfast together, and they've just decided to work together, and Clara asks him about faith, and Bruno's like, I don't really have any faith, and I think you just waste time. Like, going to church every week, you just waste your time. And Clara responds, well, it worked out pretty good for Isaac Newton. And then he's like, all right, let's get to work. But it's just a fun line. So, I would go and give it a 6.5 out of 10. The acting was fantastic. The concepts of the story were really good, but not the ending. Just you gotta end a movie. It's so vital, because again, the plot, right? You gotta great start. When you end on a climax, you do all that good rising action. You end on that climax. We don't get to see the fallout, and I think that I personally think movies fail when they don't give us the fallout.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I really like Inception. Would you count Inception as having an ending, or?
I think so. I think that Nolan wants you to think about whether or not he came out of the dream world. I personally think that there's enough clues to say that he didn't come out of the dream world, just because of the ring. I think everyone knows the theory now, where every time he's in the dream world, he's wearing the ring, and every time he's not in the dream world, he's not wearing the wedding band, right? Mm-hmm. So we kind of see that. But I think that movie really ended.
Okay.
What would you don't think it ended?
No, I was just wondering. I was just thinking of a movie here that has not a definitive ending, right? It kind of ends on like a
I think a lot of
to
movies
try and make the audience wonder what happened.
I don't think making you wonder is a bad thing, right? They've given you the outcome they've wanted, but they've maybe shown you that maybe there's potential for the other outcome. I personally think it's a cop out when they do that. Give us an ending. Don't make. Some people are going to hate it. Some people are going to love it. But at least you picked an ending. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. When you give people like I don't know, I want to make everyone feel like they can write their own ending. You're the storyteller. You have to tell us the story. We're not telling the story here. I'm paying money to go see you finish the story. Like, I'm paying money for you to finish the story. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I think that's important. Like, it's like, here, I'm going to make you half an hour of a movie. Like I'll give you one example from my favorite movie, from Jurassic Park. So Spielberg films the movie. The T-Rex escapes, throws the car over the hill. Therefore, movie's over. You guys can figure out what happens. Like, I want to know, do they get out? Do they not get out? Simple
Obviously, question. The T-Rex and them become friends, and they go out and have a dinner together. So, I don't know what movie you're watching, but clearly you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, but clearly
get an imagination.
I know, right? I don't know. Like, me and my brother, we argue about this all the time. Like, he likes those movies that leave you off on a cliffhanger and let you kind of put it together. You know what movie I really liked that gave us an ending, but gave us the opposing side as well? La La Land. La La Land told us that they did not get back together. But they told us what could have been if they had made different decisions. They showed us the entire story if Ryan Gosling just kisses Emma Stone right off the bat when they first meet. Mm-hmm. But that didn't happen. She went somewhere else. They never got together. We have closure. And to me, that's the most important thing. One of the most important things.
I freaking love La La Land, so I'm glad you brought that up.
I know. And you know, that to me is one of the best ways to end a movie.
Yeah, I agree with that, because you have two separate endings, right? You have like what actually happens and what could have happened. So,
and that kind of gives you the need, like with this movie, where the director clearly and the writers clearly want you to create your own ending. What happened? Figure it out yourself. Use your imagination. Well, if I'm paying $12.50 for a movie, I'd like to know what happens in the end. I know what I think could happen, but I want the closure. I want to know if I'm right.
That's true. Everybody, that's why there's so much fan theories of certain like TV shows and everything, right? Because everyone wants to know if they're right. And if you don't have that ending, then everyone just are stuck in forums arguing about what ends and what doesn't.
Yeah, but it's like when you used to watch Flash and Arrow, and every week we would talk about where we think the season's going. We have our discussions, we talk about it, we discuss it, but at the end of the day, we get to see what happens in the end. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think that's important. Anyway, that's all I got to say about Clara. I would definitely watch it. But especially if you like being left on a cliffhanger, I think you would really like it. If you don't like to be left on a cliffhanger, it's kind of iffy. But it's still worth giving it a shot.